Hey everyone, welcome back to the morning after. Georgia is in the house today. Atlanta born and raised, fiery mama and beyond successful Sports Center host Elle Duncan is calling into the studio. How are you, Elle?
Hi, y'all. How are you doing? Go dogs.
Oh boy, the barking dogs.
Go
I will tell
dog.
you, Al, I got taken to my first SEC game, Georgia,
Oh,
with Mrs. Stafford, which is like, if you're going to do it that way. You're on the
yeah, with the
sideline.
first lady. Yeah.
The first lady. And let me tell you what, I'm a Michigan boy. I've been to many game at the big house, right? I thought I had seen it, done it, lived it. There
Yeah.
is nothing like these SEC games. It's like the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. I could not believe it. It was unreal, the production value.
You know what? That was a big game too. Weren't we playing
Tennessee.
yeah, and
Oh,
Tennessee
yeah.
was good. But not only that, I think Hank was more surprised by the fans, which we'll get into because of how passionate and dramatic they are. Which we had a pretty good laugh about. We also,
Whew.
yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. I thought the Big Ten was the big dogs,
No,
and they are not.
sorry.
Your
They're
dogs are woof.
The dogs
Yeah,
are
it's a
woo, woo, woo,
lifestyle.
woo, you know. Okay, but before we get any further, we always do, and it's a lot take. And what's a lot for you right now?
I actually have two things that are a lot for me right now. Okay, so professionally, I'm a sports center anchor. We have to kind of know a little bit about everything that's happening right now. I am also, as much as I love sports, I'm just a pop culture junkie and maybe a little bit of a reality trash junkie as well. And what's a lot for me right now is that between the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, there is a freaking game on every multiple games on every single night, and I have, like, 4 episodes of Love After Lockup just sitting in my queue
Oh, you're
that
right.
I'm wai that I'm
Trashy.
wai
Real
yes! Oh, I'll
trashy.
go all the way trash, that I am waiting to watch, but I can't because I have to watch so much playoffs, and I love that. I mean, playoff time is great, and it's impactful, and Kelly, you certainly understand, like, everything is raised and the intensity and all of that, but it's also like, I just wanna watch some crap and,
Yeah.
like, I can't, and it sucks.
I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine you work all day and then you go home and you have to watch these games. And whether you're like a huge hockey fan or not, or I know you're a huge basketball fan, but like
Mhm.
that intent, like that in general would just tire me out. And then to turn it off, you want to watch a show, but at the same time, you got to sleep because what time are you waking up to go in?
Exactly. So, like, my day starts because 'cause I've got 2 little kids, my day starts at 6:30. So, yeah, so there's no time, like, some of these games end at midnight. I'm certainly not gonna watch, like, Love Is Blind at 1 a.m. and
Oh
then
my
get 4
gosh.
hours of sleep. So it is I mean, I think that's probably the biggest misnomer is that even those of us that love sports, and we do, that's why we do this job, at some point it becomes a job, and, like, every once in a while, you just wanna, like, check out, but you are completely incapable of doing that when they are on every single day.
I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine having to know all the sports. I like didn't even really process that or think about that when thinking about a sports center anchor. I'm so used to watching like stuff about football for the most part
Right.
and then a little basketball. But I kind of forgot that you got to cover everything.
Everything. I'm gonna have to talk about baseball on my show today, the NFL, which is not even in season, but, we're all on Aaron Rodgers watch, and then I'm gonna have to talk about the NBA. We've got the WNBA coming up, so it's just like a constant cycle. You really do have to sort of divide and conquer.
I want to
Whole
know
thing.
your take on what you think Aaron Rodgers is going to do.
I think he's gonna go to Pittsburgh. Like, honestly, I mean, at least for the sake of Pittsburgh, I hope that he does. I personally, um, don't think that what we've been seeing on the field the last couple of years, um, I don't think that, like, he should be in a position to be able to hold an entire franchise hostage like he's currently doing right now. I understand he's a legacy guy and they're desperate for a quarterback. It's certainly important. They've got weapons that they secured. They need someone to throw to him. But I just think, like, for someone who's well past his prime, where we haven't really seen the results on the field, like,
Mm.
I'm not really sure that he has earned that right at this point. But for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's going to go to Pittsburgh. So I think that's what he's going to do.
Remind me who's in that quarterback room right now. Pittsburgh's.
Right. So Mason Rudolph.
Okay.
Right, which is, like, a big part of why they're like, "Are you gonna come?" Because 'Cause they've already sort of gone down that train with Mason Rudolph. I think we can all agree that he's probably best suited as a backup, but he's gonna be their week 1 starter if they don't secure Aaron Rodgers.
Did they draft one? They didn't even draft one, did they?
They didn't draft a quarterback. A lot of people thought they'd draft Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart or any of these guys that were available, even as a backup plan, because even if Aaron does come there, he's 42 years old. Like, do we think that this is a stopgap, right? Like, it's probably a 2-year sort of situation that we're expecting at best. And so you would think that you would draft for the future and you would allow, the next gen quarterback to learn under Aaron Rodgers. But that's not what they did. I think from what we're hearing, they didn't want to scare him off by drafting a quarterback. I understand maybe you don't want to do that in the first round, but in rounds like 2 through 7, it feels like that's probably what you should do. But
Yeah. I'm hoping we're never having this conversation about Matthew being
at 42.
Yes.
Oof.
I pray we're not.
Well, I do think, listen, here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, unbelievable career. But I think that it just as important as having the good career is understanding when to walk away from that career. At the right time.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's just pray that Matthew knows that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to let it go before they let you go. And a correction, they did draft Will Howard. I think in the 6th round, the Ohio State quarterback. They drafted him in the 6th round.
All right. Well, you never know. All these draft picks, they can kind of end up surprising you. So hopefully they get surprised, but it is what it is. All right. Personal, it's a lot. Let's hear it.
So we have a 4-year-old who is suffering from allergies right now, like in a very intense way. Like it looks like he's gone a few rounds with Mike Tyson. It's like prime Mike Tyson too, not Jake Paul Mike Tyson. And it's he looks crazy, but that's not even what's a lot. What's a lot, and Kelly, I know you have a gaggle of girls, so you can relate here. Knowing when your kid is actually suffering an affliction, because my kids seem to have some injury or illness that pops up every night at bedtime. And the only cure is 30 minutes more of staying awake and watching Paw Patrol. And like, there's times where you're like, maybe this is something. Like, I do have anxiety, right? And I'm like, maybe there is something really going wrong, but I never know if it's true, if it's not true, if they're just trying to get out of going to soccer. And so all of a sudden they have these afflictions, and trying to be like WebMD as a mom it's a lot. Like, I don't know how to navigate it at all. I just kind of throw like Zyrtec at the problem and then just like see if it clears up.
Well, I feel like you're doing probably what every other mom's doing. See, there's Zyrtec, Benadryl, Motrin, Tylenol.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, at this point, when my kids, because every kid does that, they'll come up and say, my belly hurts. I don't want to eat dinner. My belly hurts. Right. And then I'll say, oh, well, I think, does your belly hurt too much for a cookie after dinner? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like,
magically cured.
Like, I will trying to play into it a little bit always helps me with the whole like feeling sick before bedtime. A lot of times I'll just be like, well, what that means is usually you got to go to bed earlier, like because your body needs sleep. And they'll be like, well, I don't feel that bad. And I'm like, okay. So I mean, I just play their game a little bit. That's the only way I see that it works. But I would say 70% of the time, I'm like, all right, 30 more minutes. Like, I just don't, when you lose the fight, it's okay to also just be like, you know what? 30 more minutes isn't going to kill you. So let's just do that. It might kill me, but not you.
Yeah. I either give in or bribery. I don't know how people can parent without bribery. I do the same thing. I'm just like, ooh, well, if you don't do this, then you're probably not going to get to play with your Nintendo Switch. So what are we going to do? And that's the only way. It's like a this or that. It's a quid pro quo. I don't know how else to parent.
Well, I don't think
we're there for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, listen, mine is so smart. She's skipped past ailments. I have a 7-year-old little girl, and she'll wake me up in the middle of the night, and she's just playing to my heart. And she's like, Daddy, I want to get into bed with you. And I'm like, why? Is something wrong? No, I miss you.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I have those moments where I'm like, girl, get back to bed. And then I have those other moments where I'm like, 3 years from now, she's not going to come in here and ask to sleep in my bed.
God, it's horrible. I never have those moments. Of 3 years from now, I'm literally just like, go get back in bed. Like, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
I'll love on you in the morning.
Yeah. I'm a big, and this isn't right, but I've got 2 women who know a lot about sports. I'm a big sports briber. So my daughter's in the soccer game. She's a hustler. She runs that field. But if you want to have chicken tenders after this game, you better score, girl. That is it. That is it's not good, but she clicks. And then she gets out there and she runs the field. So I'm like, okay, let's go.
And I told him this, and I want to get your opinion. I don't bribe them to succeed because then if they don't succeed, I feel like they feel like failures if they don't get what we said. But I bribe for them to hustle and to give it all every time you're on that whatever for your team. And it tends to actually not work, to be honest. Maybe I should start bribing for success because I don't really care. But you have 2 under 7, correct?
Yeah.
So
I have a
you're in it.
6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So
you're in
are
it.
they into sports?
That's the beautiful part with my kids is that my son just started Little League last week, and there were so many moms out there that were like, "Yeah, I promised him that I'd give him like 3 extra treats today if he just paid attention." My kids are so uber freaking competitive that like
I
I
love
never
that.
like they just want to like beat everyone. They want to show off for each other mostly. They want to like battle and compete for adulation. So that's never an issue. Like they are born athletes. They have a competitive drive and they have since they were like little kids. Like
Ugh.
they're the biggest like force multiplier for them is someone else like scoring on them or like they don't. So I never have to insert myself into those conversations because they just like innately have this will to like compete and be really good.
Oh, that's
I love that.
so nice.
Yeah.
My girls, I mean, like I would think they would have it, but they're a little, no, I'm not gonna say girly because that's the wrong term, but just like they're a little graceful about
Yeah.
their sports. And maybe because I got them in gymnastics early and they're like very graceful in that. But when someone scores on the soccer field and it's the other team, I have one that'll cry. And I'm like, what the hell is this? No, we don't cry. We get mad. We use it. We use it to fuel us, but it's not catching. Like every time someone scores, she's in tears. And I don't know. And I'm not the crazy mom, but I am the crazy mom on the sideline. And I always say this, it's because I have, 3 or 4 out of the 5 on the field. So like every time someone's touching a ball, it's usually my child. So, you're like, yeah, no, pass it. But I'm screaming the whole game because
Yeah.
one of my kids is touching the ball. Are you like silent in this when your kids are on the field, or are you more, can people hear you?
Yeah, you can hear me, but I think it's also because like my kids are still involved in the youth sports where it's like some like parent that was forced to coach that doesn't know what they're doing and like sort of doesn't want to be there anyway. So we all sort of have to like it's like communal coaching. And
Yeah.
so, I'll be like, okay, even if it's not my kid, I'll be like, Jeremiah, you're on the same team. Like, stop taking it from her. So I try to just sort of like let them do their thing a little bit. But again, like mostly my kids understand the right way to play. My daughter was playing soccer. She was 4 years old, you guys, and she got hurt. Like she did the thing where she tried to kick it and instead like fell flat on her back and she's screaming, crying. I get her off the field, she's like inconsolable on my lap. But then she turns and looks at the field and she sees that her biggest competitor is this little boy named Zaire. And she sees that he's about to score. And you guys, she jumps off my lap, sprints in front of the goal, blocks the goal or blocks the kick, takes it the other way for a goal. And when I tell you, all she did in like it was actually terrifying. She looks over at the sideline and just looks at all of us and was like, "What?"
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yes. Yeah, I like it.
I'm
like, yeah,
so
like she's like an
jealous.
actual,
Yeah.
she's like an actual animal. So
Yeah.
I kind of love that a little bit. I mean, it's not
Sure.
great at home because they compete that way over like who can get to the car first and like who can get to the bath first. And that's super annoying. But I don't want to quell that fire because she is just like, for her, someone else scoring is like, it's like an atrocity to her. She would rather not someone else score than her score.
Oh my God, I love it. And your daughter's
Like,
older, correct?
she's older.
She's the 6-year-old. It's funny you say that you are like, they compete to get to the car, to the bath first, and you don't like. I try to make mine compete for that stuff. I'm like, whoever gets in the car first, you get this after school. Like, get in the fucking car.
Hurry up.
And that's like literally the only way they will move their butts.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, first one to it gets this, and they will scream and yell and try to get all their stuff together and get out the door. Otherwise, I'm dragging them out.
Of course.
So, I mean, a little competitive nature, I feel like, is always good.
Yeah, sure. Fire them up.
Yes. Between my twins, that's tough, though. The competitive nature there is a little tough dynamic for me to deal with. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about the rumors, but push-up bras are back. And to be honest, I never knew they went out of style because I love a good push-up bra. I mean, come on, we're all getting older. Gravity's taking effect. We need a little va-va-voom in our lives. And I have found the perfect push-up bra, and it is from Skims. It is called the Ultimate Teardrop Push-Up Bra. And honestly, usually with push-up bras, I'm a little uncomfortable because, a little too much va boom and it can hurt. But Skims does it perfectly, like they do the rest of their stuff. You can barely tell you have it on, and you really don't want to just rip it off when you get home. It feels nice. Shop Skims Ultimate Bra Collection and more at skims.com. After you place your order, please be sure to let them know that we sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. But you know what won't be dropping is those boobies if you get this push-up bra. So select the drop-down menu and select our podcast just to let them know that we sent you. All right, you grew up in Atlanta just like myself. Where in Atlanta did you grow up?
Marietta.
Okay, so I was in like Duluth, Alpharetta. Do you
What
miss?
school did you go to?
I went to Wesleyan.
Oh, nice.
Where
I
did
went
you
to
go?
McEachern.
Okay, yeah. Were you guys a basketball school?
Yes, we were. We actually had Josh Smith at my school at the time that I was there. He was the last NBA player to go straight from high school to the pros before they changed that rule.
Got it.
We were a really good football school too.
Okay. I remember the name, so my guess is sports. It's sports related.
Yeah.
And then you, do you miss it at all?
I just miss like people talking to each other and being genuine when you say like, how's your day going? And
Right.
someone talks to you and responds back. Like I miss that. We don't get that here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally with you. And speaking actually of genuine, we have a good genuine friend in common, and it's Dan Orlovsky, who you are obviously work with. Hank knows him well as well. Hank knows him. Yeah.
Yeah, you got that out.
Yeah, that was right.
You know what? We were talking about this on the ride over. The thing I love about Dan is watching his evolution. Because I mean, we were obviously good friends with Dan, and I live in Detroit, and talking with Dan, and I can remember him having conversations because I work in television. I work for NBC in Detroit, and Dan very early on was like, I think I'm going to try to transition into broadcasting. I'm going to, I'm trying a few things here and there. And you just never know how it's going to translate. And I think what really works with Dan, and the same thing with you, is authenticity. Right? I mean, Dan is just who he is, and you feel that
doesn't apologize.
Doesn't apologize, and you just really feel it in his reporting. So yes, not a trained broadcaster, but one of those people who really was able to do it successfully. Don't you think a lot of that just has to come down to his core and who he is?
100%. We always joke that Dan Orlovsky is like a golden doodle in human form. Like he is like so sweet and nice and thoughtful and whip smart. And my favorite thing about Dan is how self-deprecating he is.
Yeah.
Same.
Me and Dan's like sort of our give and take is that like I roast him, we do this thing called Let Dan Cook, and literally off the top, every single entry into that segment is me just like roasting him in some kind of way, and he can't wait for it. Like he'll be like, I can't wait to see like how you talk trash to me today. I love that he says fudging, and that is consistent. Like he will not cuss. That man won't cuss. That man does not season his food. I've seen what he eats. Like,
oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, Kelly, it's actually insane. I'm just like, sir, there's just no reason. And it's not even like just what he's eating. It's like, I've seen him eating out of like, he'll just get like a cup and there'll just be cubed chicken in it. And he's just like eating it unironically without any other food. And he just doesn't, it's actually quite disturbing in many ways.
Yes, I agree.
But like none of Dan Orlovsky is made for television. Like he doesn't make any of that up. He doesn't he is the most consistent person, one of that I work with. And I have such a deep affinity and love and care for Dan. Like I want to protect him at all costs because he is thoughtful and tenderhearted and like just a wonderful, wonderful person. And he is, I would say, like if you had like a Mount Rushmore of most loved and beloved like colleagues at ESPN, he is definitely on that list. He's that way with everyone. Yeah, he's great.
Well, he had a lot of good things to say about you as well, because I reached out to him kind of asking him, give me some good stuff. And he mentioned how you came up with the segment, Let Dan Cook. Is that correct? Tell us and he was like, ask her how she came up with it. I was like, okay. So how did you come up with that?
Well, at the time, a few years ago, that saying of let Russ cook for Russell Wilson was like really, really popular. And we thought it would be really funny to do a let Dan cook double entendre because he has horrible food takes and like you wouldn't want Dan to cook anything for you because it would be tasteless and flavorless.
With
And
zero color
oh my God.
in it.
Yeah, it would all be beige. It's just like a beige plate. Everything would be beige on it. But Dan, one of amongst the many talents that he has is his ability to break down tapes. And like sometimes people can get really in the weeds and he's so smart and he could talk over people's heads, but he has this really incredible way of being digestible with his information and making you pay attention to things that you wouldn't normally care about. Like I probably on the surface wouldn't normally care about an in the weeds tape breakdown. Like I feel like there's an audience for that. And I before Dan Orlovsky, I wasn't sure that audience was me, but I always found myself like leaving feeling like smarter and then seeing those things applied into a game after we would talk with Dan. So the show group for the 6 p.m. came up with this idea of like, let's like let Dan cook. And again, we'll come in with a horrible dad joke on Dan. We'll let him do his telestration. And then we will end every segment with a food take, so if he's talking about the Saints, then we'll ask him like, what's better, jambalaya or etouffee? Knowing that not only can he not pronounce either of those things,
no idea.
but
he's not going to eat them.
He also hasn't eaten either of those things. And he's like the best. I think my favorite Dan moment happened on social media when you guys, I kid you not, and he meant this with all sincerity, he did not remember what degree he got from the University of Connecticut. Like he didn't remember. I was like, how do you not know what you majored in? He was like, general studies. He didn't know. He had like no clue. And that's, to me, the juxtaposition of Dan being one of the brightest minds in football, but then also not having the capacity to know what he even studied for 4 years is like emblematic of Dan Orlovsky.
And I'll make one more point about him because this is about you, not him. But him and his wife Tiffany were beloved in Detroit. We love them so much. They always had the best Halloween costumes.
Yes.
So damn creative. And we've talked about it once on our show, but one of the times they came as The Hangover, and it was the baby Carlos.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I forget what Zach Galifianakis is his name, but he had Tiffany in a baby carrier the entire night.
Wait, like he carried her in it?
In her, like they would be eating and standing up, and she'd be eating, and he'd just be eating. It was the wild, and like dancing on the dance floor, and she's just hanging. I mean, and obviously, luckily enough, Tiffany is a small girl.
Tiny,
but
yeah.
I literally was like, your back has got to be killing you. They stayed in character the whole night. It was so damn impressive. But
absolute commitment.
Yes. But and you're right, laughing at himself, which we've talked about in this world, is a fleeting, just like part of people. Laughing at yourself is one of the best things you can do. And he does such a good job of just like keeping it real and understanding that, I mean, you're not going to be perfect, and why not laugh about it if you're not? You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
His love, I think like he knows that like my love language is shit talking. Like if I don't care for you, I'm not gonna like that's what we do. We just like joke with each other in my family, we just roast each other. That's how we express love. And he's so great at it, never taking himself too seriously, but taking the job seriously, which is the best part about him.
Yeah.
It can be difficult though for an athlete to transition to the broadcast booth. And most famously in the last few years, it's been Tom Brady, right? And you spoke out defending him.
Got a hot take on Tom Brady.
I do, only because listen, I'm a broadcast loyalist, centrist. I believe like you kind of earn your right to be there, and it doesn't matter how many Super Bowl rings you have. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to transition successfully into television. And I think that not only probably surprised a lot of viewers, I think it probably at its core surprised Tom Brady. Because I would think that he succeeded at everything he's touched in life. And the reality is for whatever reason, he's still not kind of connecting through that screen. Now, you were very generous in your comments about him, but I'm curious, as somebody like yourself with the knowledge and the broadcast skill set, do you look at that and say, like, sometimes it's just better to stay in your lane? Or do you say, like, we need to have people like this because of his experience on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I definitely defended Tom Brady, but that was after like week 1 or 2. I was like, let's just give him some time. So we've seen it now. Yeah, I think that what he is learning is that the whole job of broadcasters is to make this look mad easy. Like it's supposed to look like anyone can do it. And I just like a
Huh.
great football player, just like, Matthew makes it look really easy to like hit a receiver in stride. That's not easy. So your armchair quarterbacks think it's easy and they want to weigh in. And I think that like people really think that we just sit up there and like just talk or just like read off a prompter or we don't have any discernible skills. And I think that what some of these like former athletes are learning is that you can have all the knowledge in the world. I mean, he does, right? Like who has a bigger, better Tom Brady, mind than Tom Brady? Maybe Peyton Manning. But like he's so knowledgeable. He has all of the experience in the world, but he is a rookie when it comes to broadcasting. There is a give and take. There are machinations to being specifically in the booth. It's very different than being a commentator or being an analyst. Like those skills are not always transferable. And for me, the defense came from like people expected him week one to be incredible.
Yeah.
And he did have a lot that he, has to navigate because not only is it a new space for him, because he's a owner, there's a lot he can't say.
Yeah.
Like, and so you're trying to do this on the fly. You're trying to work with someone that you haven't worked with before. And I'm sorry, doing practice runs by rewatching old games is not the same thing as, watching it in real time. And so I was like, you guys just give him some grace because there's a lot that's happening right here and some that he's having to navigate that other announcers don't have to. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would say that like I think the frustrating part for longstanding broadcasters, people who cut their teeth, calling games their whole entire life, calling college games. The frustrating part for them is that these big name athletes, they get paid first.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get all this money up front, and then
Mhm.
it's like, let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a traditional broadcaster, like you've got to like earn your chops and you've got to
Mhm.
make your mistakes and you have to like hope and pray that you get to the level where like people want to pay you a significant amount of money to do your job. So I understand the frustration in that way, but I also think that, like listen, the truth is that like a big people want and are chasing big names and it doesn't get much bigger than a Tom Brady. I understand why they wanted to sign him up. Maybe I don't understand why they make large commitments to these guys before they've ever seen them call a game ever. Like you don't do that when you draft a quarterback. You don't give him his $250 million contract before he's played his first game,
I was about
Yeah.
to
right?
say they
Don't you
changed
wait
that because it used to be where they would
be
get
that
paid
way?
before, and
Yeah.
now they did it because why are we going to pay someone before we've seen them or seen them play in an NFL game? It's different than college. It's not the same. So I get
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Sam Bradford to thank for that. It was like after Sam Bradford, they were like, "We're not doing this anymore. We are not paying these guys up front anymore." But that's like because they want to see if you can translate your game from a college level to an NFL level before they give you the money. The
Mhm.
money's waiting for you. Should you do that, right? And I think that's probably the frustrating part for people is that like this man's making $35 million a year or whatever to just be kind of average at what he's doing.
Yeah.
That I mean, and when you were saying, he could have the most knowledge in the world of football, and hell, he definitely is top five.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a surgeon, a brain surgeon, who is so damn good at his job and does everything right, but has horrendous bedside manner. So he
Yes.
sends someone else in to do that. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
a lot of times those skills can be separated.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. All right, Splashers. C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it is 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega-3s. A new study has come out about the first nutritional deficiency in 75 years called cellular fragility syndrome, caused by a lack of essential fatty acid C15. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide have low C15 levels and cellular fragility syndrome, which can accelerate aging, guys, aging-related breakdown, and impair metabolic, liver, and heart health. So it's pretty simple. Essential nutrients keep our cells healthy, which keeps us healthy in general. But if you're deficient in C15, it results in weaker cells. They make lesser energy, they quit working earlier than they should, and it all makes us age faster. This is why I love Fatty 15. It is made from a patented pure and oxidation-resistant C15 powder derived from plants. It's vegan-friendly, free of flavors. C15 is the only ingredient in Fatty 15. It is 100% pure. Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. Guys, I love this stuff. I take it every morning. I also love the little glass bottle it comes in. You can just tell they do everything right. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/morning and use that code morning at checkout. Again, that's fatty15.com/morning and use that code morning at checkout. All right, I do want to get into like some sports stuff because obviously you've had takes that, and I love that you speak your mind. It's something that I do as well. But women's sports in particular, like I would say there is probably a difference between 2023 women's sports and 2025 women's sports. And I would like to get your opinion as to why.
Yeah, I mean, I think like so we have this really interesting thing that's happening right now. In fact, I was just like clapping back at someone right before I joined you guys on Twitter because there's this weird narrative just because we implore people to not use their favorite sports fans as a way to denigrate other women that we somehow hate this woman. And I'm talking about, some Caitlin Clark fans. I don't know how many more times I can say, like, I'm such a huge fan of Caitlin Clark and recognizing her impact on the sport. It has been otherworldly. Like, that's just the truth. Like, she has been so dynamic. We were watching women's sports already elevate, and then it literally got shot out of a cannon because of the Caitlin Clark effect. There's a reason they call them Clarkonomics. It's in the ratings, it's in the interest, like it's in the jersey sales. I mean, that stuff is undeniable. And she is incredible. And she has handled becoming this like stellar star in such a way that is so impressive. I mean, she like I remember just, even in college before she became like Caitlin Clark, watching how she navigated being a brand, NIL, all the responsibilities, how she carried the mantle for trying to break Kelsey Plum's scoring record, like all of those things. Kelsey Plum was clear about how brutal that was for her when she was scoring all of these points and the pressure and the expectation. And Caitlin has handled it in such an amazing way. The frustrating part, I think, that what has happened from 2023 to where we are now is that it went from just like recognition of how amazing she is and just being so excited to like watch her play and hit those logo shots and her competitiveness and her fiery nature, like like she'll hit a shot and play to the crowd and beat her, like she's so fire. It's gone from that to let's use her to try to honor her by being really nasty about everybody else. And that is where I draw the line. Like that to me is so gross. And she doesn't, it's so weird to me, you guys, that Caitlin Clark grew up a WNBA fan. Her favorite player is Maya Moore. She's talked about it all the time. She met Maya Moore when she was like 11 years old, and it was like the biggest moment of her life. All she wanted to do in the whole world was play in the WNBA. And what is so weird to me is that there's a group of her fans, not all of them, a group of her fans that seem to think that the best way to pay tribute to their favorite player, Caitlin Clark, is by shitting on all of the same players that she grew up idolizing and watching, and to shit on a league that she spent her whole life working to get to. She does not want them to do that in her honor. Like that's not how you show respect and gratitude. That's not how you honor someone like a Caitlin Clark, is by literally pitting everyone against her. And I think that this discourse and narrative that was prevalent last year, that all of these, the basically the narrative was all these WNBA players are bitter bitches who are angry because Caitlin Clark is a superstar and no one cared about their irrelevant ass league until she came. I mean, how would that make you feel, Kelly? Right? Like if like how would that like that? Of course you would be like, damn, like that sucks. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And I look at like a situation last year, every single time, someone was chippy, or every time like there would be a hard foul or anything like that, it would be, see, here's an example of how much they hate her. And it has reminded me that men in particular, and some people in particular who are new in this space, do not recognize how competitive women are. They don't recognize that just like in men's sports, there are instigators, there are agitators, there are people who are incredibly physical. They're like, all of that exists within the confines of the women's space as well. It has existed long before she came into the league. It will exist after she leaves the league. Like that is the competitive nature at this level of
Yeah.
sports. And we expect it and we want it from men. We hate when men are friends. We hate when they like dap each other up and vacation together.
Yeah.
We say it's the worst thing that's happened to sports, right?
Yeah.
But when women don't exchange friendship bracelets after a game, we say that they're bitter and they hate each other and they're not a girl's girl and it's actually insane to me. And like it's the frustrating part is that like we welcome new fans into the W because that is how you grow. I mean, I'm new to the W. This is my second year.
Yeah.
But like what you should do when you first come into a space is get the lay of the land a little bit, right? Before you like, you know,
Right.
like give your opinion,
Mhm.
especially if your opinion is at the cost of the reputation of other women. And I just think it's really unfair. And I appreciate so much that Caitlin has used her platform when she doesn't have to and shouldn't have to try to quell some of that and be like, y'all, I knew how competitive and physical that the W was because I watched it growing up, which is why she put on muscle this year, right?
Yeah.
Like it's why she's yoked now because she knew she needed to get stronger. And it's like that to me is how much it's changed. Is that it's gone from on the court to everything that is nasty about
Yeah.
pitting women against each other. And I'm not for it. And
Yeah.
it's as much as you can like, you know, pour praise on Caitlin Clark and all of the other women in the league as well who have really helped this become a movement and not a moment. There's just these bad faith characters that are only here to stir up the pot
Yeah.
and only here to pit women against each other and to make it a black versus white thing. And it's none of that. Like
Yeah.
it is a competitor versus a competitor thing. And that is purely what it is. And I think that like, of course you're going to have one-off circumstances where you've got dirty plays or you've got dirty players who have done something that's like, cross the line too far. That exists in every sport, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's been exceptionalized in the W, and that's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
And you know what? And here's what I'll say to that too. Like, if Caitlin Clark had a problem, she has the platform to say it, and she hasn't. So at this point, like, enjoy the game and just realize that women can be just as fierce and aggressive and physical as men can be, and that's okay.
Yes.
know
You
what I
would
mean?
just think that we would get to the point where that would kind of lay itself down. I mean, you think about Serena Williams and what she was to that sport and her attitude 15 years ago and
Yeah.
how she was treated because she was aggressive or she'd, call out the refs if there was a bad call. And instead of it being like, well, look at what John McEnroe, look at how he behaved on the court, but she does it. And, that woman's gone too far.
It's almost like they want women to react the way one of my daughters reacts when another person scores. They're like, you should cry.
Right.
Just cry.
Rather
You shouldn't
than
get
stand up for
mad and get
yourself.
physical. You should cry. Which,
Yeah.
again, I'm trying to take out of her. I'm like, no, you need to be tough. You need to get back on your feet. So, I mean, the WNBA is very interesting to me on how it's come. Like you said, it has taken off in a way. And all I think we want it to do is to keep going trending that direction. I do think there's some people out there that don't want that to happen. So they're just going to try and tear it down. Now, I have one more question for you because I know we're running out of time, but it's another one of your hot takes. And listen, if you don't want to answer it, I'm totally fine with that.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
But I do have somewhat of a connection to this, so I want to get your take on it. The Daniel Jones thing that happened, was that last year? Was it last year? Okay, so he obviously didn't work out for the New York Giants. They paid him significantly, didn't work out. He went from QB1 to QB2 to QB3, and a day later QB4. And then the next day, I believe, asked for his release. And if I'm getting any of these facts wrong, please correct me, because again, I'm just trying to off the top of my head. But the next day gets released, and then has a press conference saying that, thank you. I really don't know what exactly was said. Maybe you can tell me. But you came out and said basically this was, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you came out, kind of just tell us what you said. And here's my question. I would like to know what you thought he could do differently.
Yes. Okay. So the thing that I took exception with, and I have a segment every week. In fact, I just wrote my Taking the L this week. Tyrese Halliburton's dad's on it, by the way. And Bill Belichick and his girlfriend are also on it. Just saying.
We just had one on that too.
Right. Oh man, so many thoughts. So I have a segment called Taking the L where it's a monologue and I just crack jokes at people's expense and I get it. the thing that I put Daniel Jones on taking the L for, it was that he wasn't released yet. It was like we all believed it was coming. He had been benched. But he did a press conference while he was still a member of the Giants. No one knew that he was going to get released literally the next day. He did this press conference where he thanks, he thanks the Giants and the fans and all of this. And I took exception with the fact that he was saying goodbye to a team he was still on. I was like, this feels like something that you probably do once you're actually released from the team. Now, hindsight being 2020, I took a couple low shots with did you really need to read all of this? It didn't feel heartfelt to me. It felt like, he read off of a paper and he could have been a little bit more just transparent about what happened. I also felt like this wasn't done to him. I mean, Daniel Jones had numerous opportunities to sort of show and prove that he was the guy. Oh my God, a big giant bug just flew through the they're locusts. Apparently I was so mad there's locusts in my room. I in general did not feel a ton of sadness for this situation, just because I felt like Daniel Jones had been given many opportunities to show that he could be the starting quarterback for the Giants. In fact, I thought they probably gave him a really long leash. They gave him a big contract. It didn't work out. I think that, Giants fans were really ready to move on from Daniel Jones. I think the organization was obviously ready to move on from Daniel Jones. I cracked a few jokes. He ended up being released the very next day. And I felt like I am totally okay with when you give opinions, when you crack jokes at other people's expense, you have to understand that not everybody is going to like it.
Right.
And I am okay with that. It is totally fine to be like, that was mean or that was unnecessary. That's fine. What I was pissed about was that I felt like the Giants organization was trying to scapegoat me. For someone in the communications department to call me out by basically trying to make a false equivalency that working at a company that had to lay people off, how could I not have more He wasn't laid off. He was cut.
Yeah.
He was cut because he was incapable of keeping the starting job after 5-6 years of having an opportunity to do that. That is not the same thing as laying off good, hardworking people because of budget cuts. That is not the same thing. It's not even close. And I felt like they were trying to misdirect and trying to direct attention to me and make it about me and how mean I was being when they're the ones that cut the man. And I took exception to that. And I think that on First Take that next day, Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Clark took exception to the Giants doing that and all but said that. And that's really where it blew up, was them addressing it on First Take and basically saying how dare you as an organization shift the blame and make this about Elle being mean and picking on Daniel Jones when you hitched your horse to a wagon that didn't ultimately work out. It happens, right? It happens all the time in football.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the whole genesis of the jokes came from you're doing a goodbye press conference when you're literally still on the team. You're on
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was
yeah,
still
he was
on
still
it.
on the team. This wasn't me making fun of him for not being on the team anymore. It was for me making fun of him for holding a goodbye press conference while he was still rostered on the team. I felt like that was a little bit strange.
Premature,
and so
yeah.
that's really where it blew up and devolved. And again, I cracked a joke that you had a Duke education. Did you really need to read, thank you for my time here off of a piece of paper? If you want to say that was a low blow or kicking a man while he was down, I'm totally okay with that. Totally fair. And I talked to my therapist about it, and maybe I would have written some things a little bit differently. But I ultimately think that the Giants tried to shift blame and make it about me as opposed to making it about them, paying someone over $115 million for 2 playoff wins, which all I did was state categorical facts. I said he was paid over $100 million and it resulted in 2 playoff wins. These were all facts. So, it is what it is. I definitely caused a shitstorm. I don't think I'll ever be able to go to I don't think I'll be able to go to a Giants game anytime soon.
You know what?
All
New
right.
York Giants New York fans in general are tough. And if we've upset plenty of people on this podcast, but whenever we deal with certain, I would say areas, you tend to feel it more.
Yes.
But I was obviously the connection to quarterback for me.
Sure.
And obviously you read headlines, but I tried to dive deeper, and I will say the reading off the card, in his, like, in the state that he was in, when you are, I mean, he's doing his best, right? These guys aren't going out there and just not trying. Obviously, they're going to try. It didn't work out. Who knows if he just needed a different type of offense or what. But I like reading off a card. In my mind, I'm going, I hate this right now. Like, this is miserable. Everyone knows I'm the scout team defense. And that sucks. And so I'm just going to get this over with. And read it, and I had no idea he was still on the team. That's a little interesting to me, but that's where my mind was. Because to be honest, like, if I was his significant other, I don't even know if he's married. I don't know anything about him.
You think he is?
Oh, you think he is? But like, I would be like, oh, he's already miserable. But to your point, like, at the same day, we're a sensitive society. Like, sometimes you just gotta pull your big britches up and move on. Is it big boy britches? I don't know.
Close enough.
Anyways, you know what I'm saying. But I love that you say what's on your mind. It's something that I honestly, I want to keep doing myself. Even if it might get you in a little bit of trouble, at least you can stay true to who you are. And that.
But Kelly, I think you're totally right. Like, I think that there is absolutely an argument to be made that, did I take an opportunity when a guy was already down and give him a little extra kick? Like, yes. Was it like mean-spirited? It wasn't intended to be mean-spirited, but I can totally understand how someone could take it that way. I got mad when the Giants communications team got involved and brought up my colleagues who got laid off, who don't have $100 million, who have kids in college, who have kids in high school, who got laid off for no other reason, had nothing to do with their performance or how they worked or any of those things. They got laid off because of ledgers and budgets and economy or what other reason. I took exception to the fact that he brought them into it, because to me, that was not the same thing. It was a false equivalency. I have an opportunity every day to earn my next contract. And if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, ESPN is not going to re-sign me.
Right.
And I doubt that, especially not Giants fans, are going to feel any ounce of sadness for me in that I was given an opportunity and I did not do the most with that opportunity. I wish Daniel Jones well. I hope that he can go somewhere, and prove that, if he's given another starting opportunity, he's a backup right now, but if he's given another start, I hope that I got nothing against the man. I'm just saying that in that moment, I thought that it was so out of pocket for them to make it about me when ultimately they made a mistake and they let a man go and they wanted to deflect all of that attention by making it about what I said.
Well, we all know, I mean, whenever an athlete or an organization or whatever it might be is going poorly, sometimes women are to blame, like Jessica Simpson with Tony Romo,
Correct.
Kim Kardashian with Miles Austin. I mean, it's a nice little distraction from the real problem. So I want to ask, okay, sorry, do you have more time? Because I have one more question.
I do.
Okay, so now sports commentators, like, it seems, and this is the world in general, hot takes are what are clickbait, and this is what gets the company more money that you might be working for. And in my personal, like, experience now, it has come to my attention that sports commentators are talking more and more about personal life off the field of these athletes and how it might pertain to on the field or on the court. I have been through this and recently, and I kind of want to get your take on it, because in my opinion, I don't feel like my news needs to be on Sports Center. Things about me personally and my husband, like, yes, talk about my husband and his game, but I do feel like it's happening more and more, and maybe because people, for some weird reason, are interested in it, and it's a quote-unquote hot take that there might be commenting on. So can you tell me, like, where do you think the line is of that? Like, where do you think you've crossed the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, so you're probably not going to hear anything about your personal life on a show like SportsCenter. We pretty much stick to nuts and bolts stuff. Like, my monologues are probably as, like, editorialized as we get, at least on my show. But I think
it
that,
probably
like,
wouldn't be your show.
Yeah,
but it's a colleague show.
Sure, I know what show you're talking about. I personally think it's really unfair. Like, I think that at the very least, if we're going to talk about these people in a critical way, because that is our job. We are paid to do our job. I think that we need to show the respect of keeping it on the field related. Now, if you're going to say like if someone's going through something, right? And you're going to speculate that like this person lost someone close to them. And so you can, like, we're dealing with that right now in the W, where we have a player that was just drafted and her mom just died.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so when we talk about that, we talk about it in a way of, you're not seeing her at practice right now because her mom passed away and she's going to need some time, and so if she's out of the gates when the season starts, like not exactly where maybe you expected her to be or projected her to be, understand that this is a maybe potentially a mitigating factor. But
Mhm.
I think I was very adamant and very pissed off when last year and even the year before to some degree, where everyone was acting like Travis Kelce's numbers were down because Taylor
Mhm.
Swift was a distraction. Like, that is so out of pocket, because there is enough evidence on the field and there are enough bright minds that can tell you why his numbers are down and can show you that when tight ends hit a certain age, maybe they slow down a bit, or because the offensive line, like, Kelly,
Yeah.
when it comes to football, Hank, when it comes to football, it's not just one thing. Like, if the offensive line is not blocking well enough for the quarterback to get it to his tight end, like, that's going to impact his numbers. All of these things come into play. And I
Mhm.
think that we owe these athletes, if we're going to talk about them critically, we owe them the respect of keeping it on the field as much as we possibly can without being inflammatory just for the sake of being inflammatory. And that is
I
that,
love
like,
that.
if you're using it in the broader context of something, fine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I'll
but
say, and I'll tell you an example that I would say is when
yeah,
I came out, this was a couple years ago, and just said that the locker room is different. Everyone's on their phones. It's hard to connect because of age differences, and everyone is connecting on their phone now and not really, and that translated to Matthews not connecting to his teammates. And I understand that bit. I do, because that is something that, you can take and it makes sense. And it's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to say it happens literally in like every office,
yeah,
in every relationship now. But I understand that could be taken. It is more like the
yes,
personal life that I think should be off limits to sports commentators.
100%.
If gossip columnists want to do it, great. That's their job. But like, to a sports commentator and analyst and all these people, I just feel like there is a line. And like you said, you kind of owe it to the players that you are talking about. And I feel like you owe it to yourself to keep it like what you know most about,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I was actually going to use you as an example. I was working Sports Center and working at ESPN, when you had your brain tumor. And I remember that the commentary around it was just more about how difficult it must be, of course, for you and for your family, but for Matthew to be trying to deal with all of the pressures of being the face of a franchise and also having to deal with this at home.
Yeah.
And like it, and I think that when it's talked about in that way, I
Mhm.
think I hope and I think
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
But if it becomes, well, Matthew needs to be, he needs to be more focused on making sure his wife don't be saying out of pocket shit on her pod. That has nothing to do with anything that's happening on the field. And that is not personally, like, that is where I draw the line. I cannot control what other people that I work with
Oh, always.
say or
Yeah.
where they go, but like, I know that my commentary never goes there, because you do not know these people off the field or the court. You do not under I don't try to speculate about heart or what's going on in people's minds. These are things that you can never know or understand. I
Mhm.
will never know what it's like to be your husband and to prepare for a game in that way. But what my job is to look at the film
Mhm.
and to look at the numbers and to look at the games and make an assessment based on that as to what I'm seeing. It should have nothing to do with what I think might be going on in your marriage. And we do that way too much with everybody.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have a life. You're not allowed to have a podcast. You're not allowed to go on vacation, because the second that you do, well, you should have had your ass in the film room looking at films. It's like, oh my God, you guys, these people are more than just athletes, and they have a lot that they're carrying and that they're trying to balance. And I think that's totally unfair in an inflammatory way to bring up things that we have heard about them, to use them as a way of critiquing what they do on the field. I just think it's out of line.
Well, I mean, I really appreciate that, because to be honest, that was a really tough. And this was,
I mean, we're all talking about the elephant in the room. I mean, we know what we're all talking about. She almost kind of quoted,
Go ahead. What are we
well,
talking
I mean,
about?
we're talking about comments made by one of your colleagues, Stephen Smith, regarding something Kelly had said on the podcast. But so I see two sides of it. I see, the argument is going to be, well, you're putting yourself out there. You're saying
sure,
this.
and I get that.
It's for public consumption. But Al's making a very good point. Does it impact what we see Matthew doing on the field?
Not
Absolutely
something that
not.
happened
And that's
25 years
that's
ago.
why it doesn't belong
No.
at a conversation, with her particular show.
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
and again, like I went through it with that, and for people who don't know, we're talking about the backup controversy in my life when I was in college, and not that it was a controversy. I dated the kid, but anyways, that was a tough moment for me to go through because all of a sudden I'm watching SportsCenter and it comes on and I'm like, what? I mean, I immediately turn it off because no one wants to hear that about themselves. But I'm like, damn, like who knew my personal life in college was going to be discussed for the national audience? And that's where like now I have a hard time with, and I'm not saying with all commentators, but I don't watch anymore because I just feel like personal sides of people's lives are being used. And again, like you said, I just don't think it's right. So I appreciate the fact that you stand firm on that. Obviously, no one wants their business aired. I mean, I air my own business out, but to our audience.
Yeah.
But also, we know that grabs national attention, and that's fine. But again, like you said, using personal life for like a gain in a show, that sucks. But
Yeah, if it's not germane to like the topic, it just I don't and there's never ever, I can tell you in our SportsCenter meetings, there's never been a topic that's come up like, should we get into what Kelly Stafford said on her podcast? Like that doesn't come up. So when you're doing that kind of stuff, you are just cherry picking things to try. And we see it with all kinds of things. Like Draymond Green gives us so much stuff all the time on his podcast. And, the conversation always comes up. Should Draymond be more focused on, winning the playoffs than he should be on talking about other players on his podcast? And my answer to that is always, we had Paul George stop doing his podcast because he was getting so much crap from Philadelphia fans like, oh, you're scoring 8 points a game. Glad you got time to do a podcast. I'm like, yes, the man has 1 hour a week to do a podcast. Are we joking, you guys?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have anything. So if it's not germane to like what's happening, if on your podcast you revealed like all of the plays that were going to be coming up in an upcoming game, we're probably going to like address that. But I think that like, but I also think that feeding the content and the engagement farm can be a huge issue.
Yeah.
And that as like the bad behavior is rewarded by huge engagement. And you are rewarding bad behavior. Not you. I mean, like people reward bad behavior by saying, I can't believe he said this. Let me send it to 30 of my friends in the group text. Because then those numbers tell you, oh, there's an appetite for this. And then you're going to have people that are going to continue to use that. So,
and unfortunately, there is an appetite, if we're being honest. There's an appetite. People want to see other people failing. Like, I don't know if it's because people just want to, feel better about themselves. Who knows? But there is. And you get that. You're like, I mean, companies, I'm sure, are like, yes, these clicks are awesome. We're getting engagement. Fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. And that's where I ask, where's the line? Because there has to be some sort of line. But I mean, I love talking to you. I love all your takes, honestly. Again, I love that you speak your mind because there's very few that do it. And I wish, honestly, you have, well, I hope you can watch your show tonight, your trashy show. I'm sorry we took up so much time. Maybe you could have been watching it right now.
No, I'm just headed right to work after this. So maybe I have found myself sometimes just listening in the car. Like I'll put it through Bluetooth and I'll just listen, which is also pathetic.
Just download it on your phone.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Are you a housewife or is that too highbrow for you?
Yeah, that's a little too high. Okay. I just told you, Hank. I like Love After Lockup. Like I like to watch inmates dating regulars. So,
I love it.
Wait, that's what that show's about?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Kelly,
intrigued.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me just tell you, if you like trash TV, it is one of the most compelling trash TV shows you'll ever see. It's people who started dating prisoners while they were in jail, and then they chronicle their lives once the person gets out of jail. Spoiler alert. not all of them really were in love.
Wait, that is okay. And love
It's
after
so good.
lockup. Love
Yeah.
after
Love
lockup.
after lockup.
Okay, well, Elle, thank you so much for being
Thank
on.
y'all.
Can you tell everyone where to find you, just in case they don't know?
Yes, please. So you can see me Monday through Friday on the 6 p.m. Sports Center, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Also, the WNBA season starting, so WNBA Countdown. I have my own podcast called The Elle Duncan Show. And yeah, sometimes I contribute on First Take.
I love it.
But I don't cross the line there.
Well, we love you for that, so thank you. All right, guys, rate 5 stars, like, subscribe to our YouTube, drop a comment. Elle, normally at the end of this, we say have a splash. You say make a splash. It's our little sign off. Are you cool with doing that?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Have a
Have a
splash.
Make a splash.
We love it. Thank you.